I hope everyone is well. Yeah, so this video is gonna be this live video is gonna be about 30 minutes long. Um, and essentially, in this one, we're just gonna be talking about grade 12s, and what I always say is that these tips, the things that I'm gonna say here, are not necessarily for grade 12s, but then it's me just saying if you're in grade 12 and you haven't implemented them yet, then do it now. But then if you are in grade 10, if you are in grade 11, this video is definitely still for you. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead, and then you guys are gonna like rewatch the live video after it's posted, because it's very late now. Chances are no one, or like almost no one, is gonna join this live, which is okay. um yeah, so just a second for me to breathe, and then we'll get right into it. I think I have like 3 or 4 very, very important points. um okay. So, one of the very, very first things I wanted to talk about is essentially it's still early in the year, right? So if you are in your grade 12 year, even if you are in grade 11, if you are in that year, the year is still very early, and it's very important for you to keep on trying different study methods until you find yours. This is what this period is for, right? Just so that when final exams come, you don't stress as much as other people, because you know how you're going to excel, you know how to best tackle a certain topic, right? So it's like during this particular period of time, you should be doing as much research as possible on the different types of study methods that are available around you, right? So it's like it's very, very important, and it's one of the most important things. I always say that the year just started, it's still March, so you still have a lot of time to find yourself, if you hadn't already, and if you don't know how you best study or how to get those high marks, right? It's all about the method of study and your habits that you have, which I'm going to talk about in the next point. But the most important thing is definitely your study method, right? So it's like if you see that for the past 3 years you've been using the same method with your Lozi, relax, man, relax. Don't worry, we'll get there some other day. We're still dealing with the learners right now. Why not? Don't worry, man. You should actually, I don't know if you still have my number. We should talk about that one. I did 10-15, so yeah, don't worry about that one, man. We'll discuss it. If you don't have my number, I don't know, because I remember you texting me or something like that. Just like send an email, even if it's just Loazi, with your number, and then I'll automatically just notice you. And then I don't worry, man. You'll survive 10-15. But yeah, back to business. For those who don't know, 10 CSC 10-15 is the computer science here at UCT, which is very hectic. So that's what Lazi was talking about. But yeah, back to my point on what I was talking about. It's very, very important for you to find yourself, right? If you hadn't already, that study method that you've been using this entire time, but you're still on your 50s, you can't say that method is working for you, right? Something has to change. And it can't be you can't say something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. It's not that you're smart, you're not smart enough, you're not as quick as the others or whatever. All those comparisons will just um deteriorate your mental health and all those different things, right? So it's very much important for you to find your methods, right? So that is one of the most important things that I exercise or like advocate for as much as possible, that you should try and find diverse study methods, especially when it comes to your theoretical subjects. When it comes to something like maths, what I always say is that one of the main problems or one of the main reasons your marks are still lacking is because of the person that you're listening to, your source of information, right? Not saying that your teacher is not doing good, but essentially from a point of view that sometimes you need to hear someone first, or you need to hear a different voice basically for you to actually get the gist of it. And then sometimes how it works is that you hear that voice once, you hear that different explanation once, and then from there everything that your teacher explains will start to make sense, right? So sometimes you just need to listen to someone else, and then in that case you have your YouTube. I don't even want to go the route of saying find a tutor. You don't need that. You have your YouTube. You have so many people here on YouTube, more than 10 different people, more than 20 actually. I remember I was a weird person. I used to count the number of people that like helped me here on YouTube. So it's like you have a bunch of YouTube channels, man, to help you with all your different subjects. So definitely dive into them and explore as much as possible. Explore as much as possible. And over time, especially with maths and physics and your accounting, you will see that, oh, when this person explains it like this, it makes more sense. Now when you're going back to class, to your teacher, and they are saying it, they're explaining the exact same thing, it's going to be like, I understood it. Now that they're saying in this particular point of view, it does make sense, just that they were not explaining it how my mind gets it, right? So this is where the whole methods thing comes in. We are different. We understand things differently. We all interpret our information completely differently, and will never be the same, right? So it's like, find yourself. That's like one of, if you were to take one thing from this video, just find yourself, man. Like look for the different methods online and attempt each and every one of them. And even if it's not all of them, but then some of them you might need to just do them one more than twice, just to see, if to confirm if, okay, this one doesn't work for me. And obviously in that process, when you're learning something with a study method that is not yours, you are still going to learn something. So if you are reading a textbook, right? If you are reading a textbook, you are reading something, and you are using a method that you don't like, by the end of that session, you still would have grasped something. So through this process, when I'm saying try different methods, I'm not only trying to like make you tired, going through all the different study methods, but then I also know that it's something that it helps you when it comes to things like lack of motivation, because you'll be like, okay, because I'm not studying the way I used to, maybe it's gonna be different, right? So you're gonna have that renewed motivation and continues to study. But then when you're using the same method from grade 10, sometimes it's just draining to just keep on studying, knowing that it won't work. I'm still expecting a 50. Sometimes you're at a point whereby you can predict your marks. You're like, here, I know that my marks are bad, right? So yeah, man, definitely my first and very, very important point: change your study method, right? Explore different study methods. And then just for me to breathe. One of oh, sorry, not one of the next point, right? Point number 2 is obviously, it's an overall point, right? On this one, it's somehow related to the whole study methods thing, but then it somehow drives away. So it's me saying, outside of you sitting down to study, right? How do you make sure that you reinforce the things that you're learning, right? So this is an entire different step of the learning process. Remember, you have three different stages. I don't know, I think I have once talked about this. It's in my book, but then like I have a YouTube video where I talk about this. So you have three different learning stages for you to actually say that I know this content. You have your active learning phase. This is where you actually be writing down stuff, trying to remember those things, and actually your normal studying, the studying that you do every day. That's only one out of three. Imagine. So when you're saying you've studied, you've only done a third of the studying. That's how you should look at it from now. Number two is your reinforcement phase, right? So this is where I am right now, the reinforcement phase. So you studying, sitting down to watch a video, you sitting down to write down some notes, highlighting, you're not done, right? You're not done. You're gonna forget those things in less than 24 hours, right? So it's like when we get to the reinforcement phase, we are saying, how do you make sure that the things that you learn stick to your long-term memory and not just last for a few hours and then in the morning of the exam it's gone, right? So it because I know that I'm gonna forget the content. They're like, I can't study. My exam is only in 2 weeks, so I enjoy studying under pressure. That's a lie, right? So it's a misconception, and it's obviously how people perceive things because they have tried studying like 2 weeks prior, and then yes, when the exam came, the information was gone. And that's because one thing, you don't repeat the things that you study. That's number one. You don't, what is it called, spaced repetition, that's the word for it, right? You need to repeat your studying. So if you did a certain topic today, 3 days later you're supposed to come back and see if you actually still understand those things. Don't watch a YouTube video and then everything makes sense and then you're like, I'm sorted, I'm moving on to the next topic. Yes, you can move on to the next topic. Don't let a week pass by without you coming back to that exact topic, right? So this is me saying that it's very important for you to study way before your exam, right? So even now it's still March, but trust me, you are preparing for your final exams, you're preparing for your June exams as well. So in the process, this is me just saying that it's important for you to do this spaced repetition. And in the reinforcement phase, one of the most important things we have is your past papers, right? And obviously past papers is something that gets thrown around a lot these days. When you ask someone who got good marks in school or whatever, how did you do it? I use past papers. That's the typical answer, right? Use past papers, use past papers. They're very important, but no one really tells you how to do it, right? I have past papers in front of me. Then what? That's the question you should ask them next time. What do you mean use past papers? It's like when someone just tells you to study hard, work hard so that you can get into varsity. Ask them, what do you mean study hard? How does one study hard? What is the process? Give me the process of studying hard, because sometimes it's just the what part of it and we never get to the how, right? So the how, especially when it comes to past papers, it's very important. Though I'm not going to touch on it a lot in this video, there are a bunch of videos out there that talk on how to do past papers. Even I do. I think it was, okay, it wasn't a separate video, but it was on the video of life sciences, I think, theory. So I was talking about that, but essentially with past papers, it's that you need to have the question paper, you need to have the memo. Never do a question paper that you don't have the memo to. That is the most critical step of doing past papers. Just because you have a bunch of papers lined up, stacked up in front of you, and you try and do them, and then when you get it wrong, you are there, you are stressed. Or when you get stuck, right? When you're stuck, you're like, maths is difficult. You have nowhere to go, right? You're just stuck at that particular point. So it's very, very important that every single question paper that you do, look for the memo first. Don't just do a bunch of papers that you don't have the memo to. That's number one. That this is even way before we start doing the past papers, right? And then number two, when it comes to past papers, there is a lot of visualization that needs to take place. Imagination. What is this word again? Fantasizing. What's the adjective for fantasy? Fantasization. I don't know. Fantasy is fantasy. Yeah, there's a lot of fantasization, fantasy. Fantasy is the word, right? There's a lot of imagination that needs to take place, right? So this just means that when you do a question, I don't know, man, this is gonna sound like you are being crazy or something, but have that thing inside of you that this question that I'm doing right now is gonna be there in that test, right? So that's the mentality I used to carry throughout. Like, I am doing this question right now and I'm gonna make sure I understand it. Why? Because I know that it's going to be there in the exam. The teacher is gonna bring this exact question, and you're gonna start doing that question. And obviously when you're at a point where you don't understand, you check the memo, you also don't understand, you're like, yo, so what am I gonna do? Now you have the memo in front of you, so how can you fail a question that is coming, right? So you have to try by all means there now to connect the dots and essentially see how you're going to understand that question. This is now when you start reaching out. This is when you start asking your friends, your online, your YouTube videos. This is you putting in that extra work, right? So when you're doing the past papers, in the entire process, you will see that there are so many things that are just gonna motivate you to keep going, right? And this is one of them. And I always say that, boy, even if even if I used to do a lot of predicting last year. I would just lie to my friends. Sometimes I would be true, actually. Funny story. Sometimes I would be true. I would be like, 2018 November, paper 1, question 7 is gonna be there in our exam tomorrow, and people would be there. If time, even me, I haven't looked at it, right? And then obviously then we're like, Ofentse, you might be right, you got an 80 something in the previous one. So now we go to that question, we focus on it, all because of what? All because of imagination. You just fantasized, or I don't know what's the word for it. I'm trying to look for the best word. Imagine is not the one, but you are basically lying to yourself. But then at the same time, this is building something inside of you. Even if it doesn't come in the exam, there is that extra practice that you did simply because you lied to yourself. So it's very, very important when it comes to doing past papers. Have a lot of visualization in place. So you are gonna sit down. This is me now outlining the past paper process. You're sitting down, opening the past paper, you are in the exam. That's where the visualization starts. You're doing question 2. Oh, this is the question 2. I'm in my exam right now. I can't skip it. I can't say I don't know. This is your final exam. What are you going to do, right? So it's a very, very important question. And then now obviously you have to somehow, by all means, try and make all amends to ensure that it makes sense, right? So it's like, please, 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 visualize. You sit down, do the question. If you don't understand it, that means that even if you leave it and you're like, I don't know, that is the same reaction that you're going to give when the exam comes. Because remember, the person that is sitting right now and practicing is not going to be the same person in the exam. When you enter the exam room, your mind completely shifts. Even the things that you knew for the exam, they just leave. And we never get the chance to visualize, right? And that's the most important thing that I wanted to touch on, in a sense that once you get that visualization aspect of it, it's easy for you to be able to get into the exam and not have a completely new feeling. When you're in the exam, now you start shaking. Why? Because you never got the chance to actually think of your desk at home as the exam, right? When you think of it as the exam, you set maybe a timer there, you turn your phone off, or if you're using the past paper on your phone, it's fine. D&D, do not disturb, on. Focus on that question, start writing. If you don't know the answer, that's completely fine. That means you're gonna leave it blank, you're gonna get a 0. Once you're done doing that past paper, what you do is that you what you call this thing, you start marking. Where you got wrong, you put wrong, right? This is You don't cheat. This is the teacher marking. That's why I get there's a lot of imagination and visualization going on here. You do your things, the ones that you don't know, you skip. From there, what happens is that you mark, you mark, you mark. If what I recommend is you doing question by question instead of an entire paper, right? On good days, that's when you can do maybe an entire maths paper one. You sit down, you put the paper there, you set your timer for 3 hours, then you do that, right? But for the most part, I recommend you doing questions, right? So in simple terms, if you're doing your trigonometry, you're going to be doing 5 questions in a row on trigonometry. You're going to do the five, and these 5 questions are obviously all going to be on trigonometry, which means that they're very much closely related, right? You're going to do the first question on trigonometry. The ones you don't know, you skip. It's fine. You finish, you mark, you get your 0 out of 18. It's fine. You try and look at the memo, try and understand why you got it wrong. What you're gonna do is that you're gonna write that answer in the memo. You write it down on those spaces that you left. You write the answer down, and then simply after writing down that answer, put it away, and then move on to the next one. Remember, you're doing 5, so the first one is done. And then you got a few points from looking at the memo. Trust me, you got a few points. Even if you think you didn't understand the memo, there is something that you saw there. You saw that, oh, when the question asks this, somehow they're adding a 2. I don't know why, but let me just keep that in mind. When a question comes like this, you need to start by factorizing. I don't know why, but keep it in mind. The next question comes up, you're doing your second question on trigonometry. You see that, oh, this is a very similar question. I still don't know why we're factorizing, but because it's the exact same question as the previous one, I'm just going to factorize either way. And then you do your factorization, you get the question right. You keep on doing the same thing for these questions. What's going to happen afterwards is that you go back to videos, you go back to your YouTube, you go back to the different people who explained. They explain that thing again. Now it all starts connecting. Oh, that is why I was factorizing, right? So it's an entire learning journey in a sense that you shouldn't spend more than an hour not understanding a question. That's one very important thing. Don't sit on your table looking at a question like this for over an hour, a single question, and then you end up texting people. We are not even there yet. The first thing is to think about it. If you don't know, mark it wrong, look for the memo. And obviously, one of the main reasons why people sit and look at an answer at a question for hours is because they don't have the memo, so they don't know how to go about the answer. That is why one of my most important points, Kirilekin, never do a question paper without a memo. So that is essentially one of the most important things. And yeah, man, that is basically an overview of how to do past papers. I hope that it makes a lot of sense, because it's the most effective process when it comes to effectively taken. But yeah, it's a very effective method when it comes to doing past papers. So just try it out, and then yeah, you'll just come back and give some feedback on this video or something. I don't know. And one last point, right, is just on your habits. I'm not gonna touch a lot on this, but it's me just saying your habits play a very important role in your academic performance, right? This just means that the things that you do every single day, to give a very quick example, the amount of hours that you spend on your phone, they play a very big role, as more than you think. As much as you may think that, yeah, my phone is a distraction a little bit, but there are things that happen when you're spending that 3 hours on your phone. Something happens in your brain, right? Your brain gets drained, the light comes in, something happens. I'm not yet at that neurology level. I was gonna spit all the bars, but I'm not there yet. But essentially what I'm gonna tell you is that your habits affect the way your study sessions go out, right? So let's say, for example, you had a 3 hour session of TikTok, just scrolling, and then immediately after that you are like, you put your phone down and then you go into studying. Yes, maybe you might log in, you might do your studying, but then imagine if you didn't have that 3 hours before studying, and maybe before that you were meditating and just sitting, doing some journaling, writing down your feelings, writing about your day, writing about your goals every single day. What did you achieve? What are you grateful for? You do that thing, and then from there you go into studying. So try those two different habits, and then see how much of a completely different person you feel in your study sessions, right? Because this is something that is going to ultimately determine how long you study, the amount of motivation that carries you throughout your studying, your discipline, how much it carries you, how much you have. And yeah, it's a very, very important thing. You know yourself, you know your habits, you know how you spend your 24 hours every single day. And I'm not the person to tell you, right? So this is me just essentially guiding you and saying that analyze your habits, know your habits, look out for yourself, and put better habits into place, put healthier habits in place that will essentially improve your overall well-being and will contribute very, very much positively to your towards your academic success, right? And yeah, man, for now that is essentially about it. I feel like those 3 points in just 30 minutes, they cover a lot. It's a lot to unpack, but this is me essentially just giving you a guideline of the entire thing. And then from here, what you are going to do is that you're going to look at yourself, you're going to sit back, analyze yourself. I think one of the best ways, this is actually my closing point, from the things that I've said, one of the best ways to be able to understand yourself better is to start journaling, right? So start writing down your feelings. I would say I don't about 3 to 4 times a day. Let's say the moment you wake up, write down how you feel. What are you grateful for? What do you want to achieve today? What is one thing that motivates you, right? And what is one thing that is making you feel essentially how you are feeling, right, in the morning. And then around maybe the time you get to school, or around your break time, right? Around your break time, just a few minutes, 5 minutes. How are you feeling? How different are you feeling from how you were feeling this morning? Are your goals still the same? How is it going with those goals? What are you grateful for at the moment? What have you noticed? And what is something that makes you happy? When you get that's you during break time. After school, when you get home, you do that, the exact same thing. Write down your feelings, write down how you're feeling, track your habits, right? This is what I did today. That's it, right? That was you journaling. There's a lot of peace that goes with it. There's a lot of mindfulness that goes with it. It's a very healthy thing that you should just start. Even if you don't have a journal, take this thing, your book, classwork book, man, whatever book, from the back, start writing down your feelings. And then that's the third one. The fourth one is going to be right before you sleep, right? So that's when you reflect on your day, look back at the entire day, look back at those 3 other times you were journaling: in the morning, during break time, after school, and then right before you sleep. You summarize everything. How was the day? How, based on what you said when you woke up in the morning, how are you feeling now, and what is different, and how did you spend your time, right? How closer are you towards achieving your goals? All those different types of things, right? So there is a lot that goes into it. And this is essentially me saying that journaling is something that is going to help you understand yourself better, right? As a person overall, and essentially helping you understand your habits, right? So when I'm saying that, for example, understand how you study, this is a very big question, man. When I ask you how do you study, it's a very long process, and you can't answer that to me. You can't give me the answer in like 2 lines, right? So journaling is the best way to be able to better understand yourself. So maybe after a study session, a 2-hour study session, write down how that 2 hours, how it was. What did you learn, and what did you wish you could have learned? And even before the session, maybe you journal once again. Right now, I'm about to go into the studying. This is what I'm planning on understanding in this session. This is how I'm going to do it. Sharp. You go into your 2 hours, you do your studying. As soon as you're done, you come back, you journal again. I'm done with my 2 hours. This is how it went. This is you talking to yourself, your inner self, and unleashing your inner mindset. They call it the, I think there's a book called A Mind for Numbers by Barbara Oakley. She calls it the some, oh, what is it, I forgot what it's called, right? So she basically says that your brain has two sides, right? So you have one side that is like always working, right? You, the one that you talk with, the I forgot the two terms, but then you have the side that you always talk to people with, the things that you say. That's one side of your brain, and then the other side is the quiet side. So the quiet side is the things that you aspire to do, those moments when you're scrolling on TikTok and there's a back voice that always says, yo, but I need to study. It's this one, right? So essentially, the more you do this journaling, the more you start talking to yourself. You're unleashing this guy. You're unleashing this guy to be able to come in the forefront, for you to always think about your goals, for you to always think about your habits, the things that you do, for you to be able to make better study decisions and all those different things, to be able to better understand your study habits, understanding the things that distract you. The only way to be able to, okay, not the only way, but the best way to be able to understand this is through writing, right? You don't have to be a good writer. Write in your language, in English, in broken English, in Afrikaans, is French, anything, right? As long as you are writing down your thoughts, do that every single day, 4 times, yo, four man, sorry, 4 times a day, every single day. And yeah, man, this is something that is going to help you in the long run. And yeah, I don't want to make this a very long video, so this is gonna be the end of it, right? It's gonna be the end of this live video, and these are the main points that I essentially wanted to cover. And they are very, very big points, and I hope that you watch this video at least more than once, right? Twice or 3 times. You just keep on coming back to this video whenever you're feeling down. You just come back and reflect on the things that I've said in this video, and just try them one more time, and just coming back and essentially refresh, press refresh, and go through the video again and writing down some notes. So if you came late for this video, for example, you can just go back to the beginning. When this, as soon as this ends in a minute, you go back to the beginning, right? From what I started talking about, you start jotting down some notes and essentially noting those important things. And yeah, and this is essentially all I have to say. It's not much, but it's all you're gonna need for now. The year is still very, very much early. Don't lose hope. You still have a lot of time to fix yourself. We're all different, we're all unique. The way the amount of time you take to understand your Euclidean geometry, your functions, your number patterns is gonna be completely different from someone else. So I don't want to say walk at your own pace, but then while you are at that particular pace, know that I'm still on track, right? You can be walking at your own pace, but then off Rempile, you're going to the desert, right? But then if you're walking at your own pace, but you're still seeing in front, or okay, there are the rest of the people, there is the finish line, I know where I'm going, right? So number one thing, I talked about your study methods. Change your study methods. Number two, your reinforcement phase. Go and rewatch that part. Number three, I talked about, yo, I forgot, yo kelebetse. Number three, I talked about your past papers. Yes. Number three, I talked about how to properly do your past papers. Number four, the most important one, your journaling, right? You need to start writing down your thoughts. You need to start writing down your feelings. You need to start writing down every single thing that goes on in your life. Keep it as a book. You don't have to buy a new book. You don't have to buy pens. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, as long as you have somewhere whereby you are writing down what is going on in your life, and with the dates and the times. And at some point, when you reach a point of self-improvement, there is a certain feeling that's gonna come with you going back to day one of you journaling and going through your emotions, and you're like, yo, I was once at this particular point, and because I was able to find myself and identify how I was feeling at that particular point, you're gonna feel so proud of yourself, man. And you should already be feeling proud of yourself, because at a point whereby you have access to this information, right? You have access to a pen, you have access to a book, you have access to this YouTube channel. You are able to listen to someone telling you to start journaling, right? So it's something that you should start doing. If you know that you spend a lot of time on your phone, please reduce it, limit yourself. If you don't know how to, one of the best methods is to maybe set a particular period of time, saying that I can only be on my phone from 6 to 8 or something like that, or I can only start checking my phone from 7 p.m. Whatever restriction that you set. And this is something that is going to, you can only find out about when you start writing down your feelings and your thoughts and your emotions and everything in between. And yeah, that is about it from me. If you have any questions, I see that two people just left. Whoever is here, if you do have any questions or complaints, compliments, comments, whatever you have to say, you can just type it down quickly. I'm gonna give it a nice minute. If you do have any questions to ask whatsoever, this is the perfect time to ask them. And if there are no questions, yeah, I'm just gonna head out in 1 minute 60 seconds time. And yeah, essentially what I wanted to say with this video is that, man, this year is still very long. You still have a lot of time to improve yourself. You still have a lot of time to work on yourself. You still have a lot of time to find yourself, right? So this is me just spreading the message to you and making it known to you that this is the perfect time for you to start working. Can you please help me create a study timetable? Yeah, no problem. Just send me. So I think there's an email address. You can just say spare and then leave your number or something. You just send a quick email, and then yeah, I can help you with that. Or if you can just like write down all the details on the email as well. I don't mind doing a lot of mentoring. I don't mind. If you need any help, you can just pop me an email at any time, and yeah, I'm always available to assist. Just send me a quick email and then we'll talk about that. But for now, I'm just gonna close this session. I hope you guys have a very good night, and hopefully you'll be having at least one study session before you sleep. And yeah, enjoy your night and God bless you. Thank you.